I'm Andrew Levine, the CEO here at Koinos Group, where we're a team of industry veterans developing Koinos, the blockchain with no fees and no barriers to entry. Today I'm speaking with Michael Vandeberg, one of the co-founders and blockchain architects here at Koinos Group, and he's going to provide a brief update on the project. We recently released a developer preview of Koinos, which is very exciting, and he's going to talk a little bit about. And that enables anyone to get a Koinos node up and running on their computer. So that's actually a cluster of microservices because Koinos is the first blockchain built on a microservice architecture. All the foundational features of Koinos are in that developer preview. You just can't really do anything with it yet, including connect to any other nodes. That's what's coming with the full testnet, which we'll be releasing pretty soon. Michael's going to update you on the progress we're making on the testnet in a minute, but before we get to that, I just wanted to highlight the reason why we're releasing Koinos in this way, which is that we really want it to be as quick and easy as possible for anyone to be able to run Koinos on any machine with any configuration running in any environment. It's critical for accessibility. So if you want to help the project, the best thing you can do right now is to try to get that developer preview up and running. And if you can't, then that's actually great because it means that there's something we've overlooked. So definitely let us know more about any problems that you're seeing so that we can get everything fixed for the full testnet release. And now I'm going to hand things over to Michael Vandenberg.
The developer preview was a pretty big deal for us. It really represents a culmination of the vast majority of the last year of work. All major components of our blockchain architecture are represented within the developer preview to varying degrees of completeness. Everything is functional, but obviously, like this is, you can consider it almost like a pre-alpha. We know there's a lot of bugs. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done. Where possible, we've been trying to create issues, labeling those with like help wanted for different ways the community can help out. I think the biggest piece for us and point of excitement is just making those repos public. There's been so much work we've done over the last year that we've been doing, behind closed doors, and getting that public, having eyes on it is exhilarating and scary all at the same time, because now people get to look at your stuff, which we're really proud of it. We also know how much work still needs to be done between now and mainnet, but getting it public is a pretty big deal for us. So the exciting thing moving forward is, it is a functional blockchain. Much of the tooling needed to make a useful blockchain is still being written, which is what we're doing right now. And I would say that the most exciting piece of that is actually getting to writing smart contracts and essentially dog fooding our tool chain, writing contracts, testing contracts, and I say the two biggest pieces where we're working there is, first is bug fixes. As soon as we begin actually writing contracts and trying to do fun, cool things on a blockchain, we're both discovering bugs that we're able to fix, and then also figuring out where those rough spots are that we know developers will run into and be like, this is janky, this needs to be fixed. So being able to make improvements to both the Coinos as well as our contract development experience from the perspective of a smart contract developer is pretty massive. That's represents like 90% of what I've been doing over the last 2 weeks, is working on a smart contract and adding features to it and realizing, hey, this thing over here in this system call is not working the way it needs to, or there's a bug over here, and making those tweaks, realizing, oh yeah, this aspect of the CDT is really kind of weird to work with. How can we clean that up? How can we make that easier more intuitive to work with? So, those APIs are all, still very rough, still early, but trying to write contracts that are intuitive to both read to write, and are hopefully going to make for uh, a good developer experience. Once we get to testnet, obviously testnet's going to be a big deal, especially from the smart contract perspective. I expect a lot of the stuff we're working on is going to need to be improved, go through multiple iterations of improvement. But if we can provide something that is usable, that developers can get their hands on, for testnet, that's going to provide better better information for us on testnet, as well as better information on how to improve it to make this as good, as polished as it can be for the mainnet release. So right now I've been focused solely on just the coin token contract. So we're starting with an ERC20 style standard, and just writing a simple contract. A token contract's kind of, it's a, in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty simple contract. It's very important to get right, obviously. So, also exercises many features of Coinos, right? You've got to store state to the database in the form of user balances. You have to read state. You're modifying multiple. If a transfer from Alice to Bob is utilizing multiple aspects of the database. It also needs to be permissioned properly, right? You only want, to, at least to start, only Alice should be able to spend Alice's tokens. So making sure that aspect of the cryptography is hooked in, that smart contracts can authorize users properly. It also has, read-only methods as far as like, well, what's this person's balance? Things like that we can then tie in to make sure all the API code is working. And so it's a relatively small contract. I think it's less than like 200 lines of code. And a lot of that is boilerplate. The actual guts of the contract are very small. Developers are building contracts. We want to provide them with as many tools so that they can build their contract quickly with as little code as possible, so it's easy to maintain. And the token contract is kind of a really good example of that. Exercises a lot of aspects of the blockchain. I mean, there's probably at least half a dozen, if not more, bugs that I've ran into in the system calls themselves that just were exposed in the process of writing the contract, that we simply haven't had as good of test execution of and exercising. So this is a great way to both write a contract that's going to be needed for testnet, and also find bugs earlier on before we even get the testnet launched. The goal is this would be a nice hello world program. There might be a few pieces in there that are interesting as far as what I'm currently working on is only allowing the system, the Koinos kernel system itself, to be able to mint tokens. That's essentially the Koinos blockchain controls the printing press of coin. And so that's the current aspect I'm working on. That probably would be different in a user, a completely user-defined token. But large components of this are going to be identical across different tokens that other developers will write. And I think for us, a really good litmus test is simply if a non-smart contract developer can sit down and read through this program and they're like, yeah, I don't necessarily know I would have, if I would have known that specific keyword, but I can read through this and that all makes sense, then I think we've written a good contract and we're on the right step in creating a good CDT. I think we're in a good spot. Our Q2 goal for testnet is looming, but I think we can still make it. There's a lot of work to get done, but the team, I think, especially turning this corner, has gotten a little boost of motivation. Every time we can make something public, I think that it helps boost our morale.